Okay, so to preface this, we are in fact filming on a potato. So if it looks really not produced and ridiculously 2009, it's because it is. That being said, we are going to be doing an interesting podcast, I would say, because it's something that I haven't seen on the internet yet. And as someone who is looking for things to relate to watch myself, I was finding myself falling short of finding things that actually related to our very unique life. So maybe this will actually relate to somebody out there that has a very unique life like us. Um, so before we get too much into it, our podcast will be called ASD3, and the reason for that is kind of a double meaning there. For one, we have three children on the spectrum, and also all three are level 3 autism. That is very unique from what I've seen on the internet because a lot of the parents out there that are talking about their autism experience maybe only have one child on the spectrum or only have one that is severe and have an array of different um, diagnoses out there for their children, or maybe they have higher functioning children. I have yet to find one that maybe for good reason, have three with severe autism. And another thing we wanted to discuss is who we are. So my name is Jessica. I go by Jessie a lot of the time. And I am a healthcare worker. I'm a mom of three, obviously. We just talked about that. And Charles and I have been married for 11 years, which is very unique for our situation as well because we are so young. Um, Charles, do you want to give a little bit about yourself?
I'm Charles. I go by Charlie. Uh, I work a office job, nothing crazy.
Yeah, which is very, very different from what I do. But the reason for that is also just our life and what it means to be autism parents is we're constantly balancing different things. And that's why this podcast is also going to be a little bit different than maybe what you've seen. We're not just going to be sitting down talking. We're going to be doing things that we wanted to do all week, but maybe couldn't because I was either working or the children were too much. You might see us painting today because that's what we're trying to catch up on. He has a very great selection of things that we need to paint. Charles collects and paints Warhammer. Pardon me. And I don't do that, but I do paint. And as someone who had an art minor, it's kind of my only outlet to paint. So we're doing that. What are you painting today?
Firestalker.
Okay. So one of his crew army. And then what's this called?
Raptidon, I
Raptidon.
think.
So I'm going to paint one of his Raptidons. I usually ask him before grabbing what to paint, is do you care what colors these are? Because if you do, I'm not painting it. Because I like to just be creative. And a lot of the time, certain armies have certain, colors that they stick to. And so I'm trying to be respectful of that. But also, I don't like to paint, you know, things just based on something. I like to kind of make up things as I go. Um, so to get started, what I would like to do is actually just check in. How are you feeling this week?
Horrible.
Okay, so what specific things have made this week difficult for you?
Well, I guess we'll go chronologically.
Okay, that's fair.
Um, Kind of a rough start to the week. Had we're short again at work,
Okay.
so I ended up having to cover something that I haven't been doing for about probably close to 3 months now. And come to find out that the way I left it is not how it is anymore.
So without getting too into like names or
I was doing things a
specifics.
very specific way to keep things consistent,
Okay.
and that was not maintained.
That's
So
fair.
now, uh, anytime I need to find something or help somebody with a problem that requires referencing past interactions, it's pretty much impossible because nothing is searchable.
So, another thing to kind of go off of this is we're probably autistic ourselves. We just never gone through the diagnoses screening. And the reason for that is we feel like that would take away resources from people who actually really need it, like people who are maybe lower on the functioning scale or, you know, need it for something specific in their lives. We do often find ourselves having anxiety and obsessive compulsive behaviors and stuff like that, that, you know, normal people might also have. Not to say that autism isn't normal, but I mean, fuck, it's not normal. Um, but so Charlie likes to do things a certain way, and sometimes
Well,
they don't get maintained at work.
it's
But it's
that
also the correct way. Let's go
that
there.
was the way it was taught to me and everybody else, and that's the way it should be done.
Okay. So other than that,
It's for a reason. It's not just me being, you know,
I
it's
know.
not just me being some kind of way about it. It's like that for a reason. It's supposed to be done this way.
Okay.
Anyway,
So other than that,
um, that kind of carried out through the rest of the week, but you know, just being asked to do things that's not really my wheelhouse at work just kind of stressed me out throughout the week, and then we had kid birthday this weekend. He got
yeah,
a metal toy, which I
dude.
didn't realize till we'd already bought it, and then he'd opened it, and I come to find out today that metal toy met TV screen, and now TV screen broken.
So I'm gonna learn how to edit so that I can edit in a picture of what the TV screen
Just
looks like.
imagine a broken LCD screen. That's what it
But
looks like.
it's not the first time he's broken a TV. It's not the first
It's
time
the least expensive thing that he's broken.
so far. He's broken several tablets and stuff, and that's something that we do need to address with our children's diagnoses. So, we'll get into that in a second. So my week, very similar to Charles's, was not great. I'm not gonna lie. Work was stressful. We were short pretty much. And by short, I mean like it wasn't as short as we've been before. Like I mean I've worked a 3-person shift before. So it's not the worst I've ever worked, but it's still short. And we've got a lot of new residents with new one-to-one needs that I don't think we can facilitate properly, but we've got them. And so it's a little stressful at work. Also, I mean, just the nuances of I'm not great with social interactions sometimes and not understanding when people are serious or not serious. And so, the nuances of communication sometimes evade me. And that being said, sometimes work is a stressful environment for me just in general because I'm having to deal with so many different personalities and stuff that I normally maybe wouldn't interact with and trying to make it work for work's sake. I also like to, I'm the type of person where I will joke until I die because it's the only way I can get through shit. So, I mean, I constantly am making jokes and people are like, oh, you're so funny. But reality is, like, I'm doing that because I'm stressed the fuck out and I will literally walk out of the job if I don't make it fun. Um, so that was kind of at work. And then on top of that, while I was trying to, I've been trying to diet. I'm not going to lie, it's fucking awful. Nobody ever sits down and says, I'm really craving a fucking salad, or I'm really craving a hard boiled egg, or avocado, or something. Like nobody sits down and says that. People sit down and say like, I'm craving pasta, or like, I know I said that. I saw the look.
I'm craving. I love it.
Craving. I'm craving pasta or something fun, something that tastes good and makes your belly warm, or, something like that. People don't crave things that you eat on a diet. So I've been a little bit cranky, I'm not gonna lie, a little bit hangry maybe. Because a little bit.
Is that, what's his name from Father of the Bride?
Father of the Bride?
That's who said talks like that.
Oh yes, the
Franck, or what's his name?
Franck. Franck from Father of the Bride. Um so that being said, we're gonna get derailed so much. Yes. And that is the point.
I'm also going to be doing this a lot.
So, that's just our situation right now. Um, and I'm trying not to be a super bitch about it because let's be real, it was my choice to diet and nobody else's. And I'm trying to really respect the fact that I'm being an asshole when I'm hangry and that I need to like chill the fuck out. So, that's another personal thing that I've been going through. And then on top of that, while I was trying to get, my body back into workout mode, which hasn't been since what? I was 19. Maybe a little bit after that because I did still go to university a little while after we met. Like I was 18 turning 19 when I met Charlie. So, like it was my birthday. Meaning we've been together since I was a teenager and Charles was a very young adult. So
That maybe doesn't sound right.
I was of age and you were 2 years and a half older than me. It's still right. Anyways, that being said, I haven't been to the gym since around that time. And the reason for that is people get comfortable in, situations or they have 3 children with fucking autism. And let's be very clear, there's no fucking time for yourself. When you get into a like serious relationship and you start to have kids and shit, that's what you're focused on. You're not focused on yourself anymore. Unless, of course, you have some kind of goddamn community that we just don't have. So that being said, I've been going to the gym. It's not been fun because I forgot what the gym was like. I forgot that there's like people who are really fucking into it and they've got like those bands on their arms, like calculating how many steps they've had. And they like look amazing. And I don't know why they're there, but like, I guess obviously to look amazing.
Bands are talking.
Like that, they put their watches on their arms.
That's where a watch usually would go.
No, like upper arm. Anyways, so I forgot that there's like a certain, way a gym goes. People are very into it. And no hate to the people who are into it. That's great. I'm glad that there are people like that because everybody's got to have a niche, right? Like, I'm just not that. And so it's been really hard to work out and not feel like I'm a total fucking tool when I'm working out because I have no idea what I'm doing. And I mean, like, I used to know what I was doing. I used to go 3 times a day to the gym in between classes. And then I met Charlie. And then it was like 2 times a day. And then it was 1 time a day. And then it was none time a day. No time a day. Like, we just got more comfortable. I stopped caring as much about my body as I should have.
I've never been inside a gym.
He's never been inside a gym, but he looked amazing when I first met him, and he still looks great. So I don't think that that's something I'm worried about to do with him. But I am pre-diabetic, and every single blood test I take, there's some kind of abnormal something or other, and I have a lot of like arthritis and stuff from my fibromyalgia, and I have carpal tunnel and shit. So I'm just trying to be healthier. And of course, I've gained a lot. I was a size 6 when I met Charlie, and now I'm a size 16. That's a huge jump. And I'm trying to get back to, a reasonable, healthy size. And it's probably not going to be a size 6. I'm not going to lie. Like, that was before children. And my stomach just, I don't think will get down enough, but I'm still going to just focus on my health. So, on top of that, the van. So after you forgot about this, I didn't. It was a horrible day for me.
It's the TV's just kind of in the mind. And
Your direct mindset, yeah. So the van, we just finished getting a battery thanks to my dad, who we have to pay back. um a battery for our silver van, which is a newer van. It's not new. It's like 2014, but it's newer than the other van. So that's finally done, and we're like, okay, whatever. So I take the gold one, which is a 2010 Caravan, to go to the gym with my friend from work and to, go grocery shopping because I knew she had to go grocery shopping, so we were both going. And when I went to go do that, I had gotten through all of the grocery shopping. We loaded all of the groceries in after we had gone to the gym. And I hear a horrible sound when I try to turn it out of the parking lot. And I'm like, what the fuck is happening? And then I realize I can't steer this thing without having to pull on it, which means the power steering has gone. And of course, me being a female, I call the next man I know, the one and only Charles. And he was asking too many questions for my hangry state. And I got a little flippant. I'm not gonna lie. I got a little flippant because I was like, I feel like you think I'm stupid right now. I'm telling you what's happening with the vehicle, and you're asking questions. And I'm like, this is what's happening, though. I know what's happening. And you're asking questions if I'm not aware. So I got flippant, and I'm sorry about that. But anyway, so then we have a fight in front of Shree, who is my coworker.
Really wasn't much fight.
It was a little bit of a tiff. It wasn't amazing.
Huh.
I mean, it was a little bit of one. Anyways, again, hangry state. It's gonna happen when a bitch is now dieting and she likes her pasta and shit, and everybody's been eating pasta. Also, fuck work. I'm sorry. This is an off-kilter thing to say, but they brought like seven artisan bakery pies to work the day I come back to work after starting a diet. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? You could have done this 3 days ago when I wasn't on a diet. But no, it's like they do this on purpose. Every time it's like, oh, there's shit tons of onions in this salad, so you're not supposed to have it because you don't have a gallbladder. I still eat it, and then I shit a lot at work. It's a problem. Anyways, that being said, they brought the pies. I wasn't allowed the pies. I watched as other people consume pie in front of me. It made me even angrier. Anyways, this week was not great. So, now that we've done our check-in about how our week has been, oh yes, and our son has been eating his thighs. We'll get into that in a second. We don't know what to do about that, and if you guys have suggestions, please do leave a comment because I'm not sure if anybody has encountered this yet in their autism journey, but if you have, maybe you have some fucking pointers because I would love some. So let's get into the diagnosis part. So all 3 children are diagnosed autism level 3. 2 of which are completely nonverbal. So our oldest, who is 10, he's a boy. Our youngest, who is 5, who is turning 6, is a girl. And then we have a middle child that is low verbal, which means she is verbal, but people don't necessarily understand what she's saying most of the time. And a lot of the time, there's a communication breakdown because her verbal communication is just not up to par with where she should be. And she is 7, and she'll be turning 8 in February. So those are their diagnoses for autism. Then we have the pica that comes along with nonverbal autism a lot of the time, but it's not specific to nonverbal autism. It happens in autism and, different diagnoses without autism. Our oldest and our youngest also have pica, so they eat non-nutritious things. Additionally, our middle has epilepsy. So it's a lot, and they all have seasonal asthma. I mean, the oldest and the youngest less than the middle.
I don't think they even have that.
It's just rare now that they have asthma issue, and we've had inhalers on standby just in case. I feel like my asthma has been exacerbated the last year, but that's also because I keep making choices like smoking every once in a while because I'm like fucking stressed. And I know it'll give me bronchitis, but I do it anyways. Um, so that being said, those are their diagnoses. Now, with that comes a lot of struggles. Like it's not an easy diagnosis to begin with one child, but then like with three, and then being so different, like in terms of like personality, even though they all have the same diagnoses, is like it's wild. I'm not gonna lie. Like it's hard to keep up with one, let alone three. And then of course three that have like wildly different personalities. Would you agree?
Yeah,
What do you think right now is our biggest hurdle with all three?
James.
Our son. So our son is by far the
I don't know if
hardest.
we're saying names or not. I forgot.
It's okay. We can say names. We're not going to ever have our kids on camera. That's another thing we should maybe mention. We're not going to ever do that because A, we don't believe in, we also don't, yeah. But we don't believe in non-consent like filming children. Like I just don't believe in that. We don't believe our children. There's one screaming right now. By the way, this is bedtime and this is just our regular clothes. I'm wearing pajama pants, and the children are supposed to be in bed and sleeping. They've all been given melatonin, and they are not sleeping. That's just the way fucking life goes. But they're safe upstairs in like a contained area where there are less harmful things that they could get into, although they'll try. And that's why we're doing it right now because we're downstairs and we do have cameras, but we don't have time for each other unless they're in bed. Um so our oldest James, he has nonverbal level 3 autism and pica. Now his autism has exacerbated things over the last 2 years when he started going through puberty. Now puberty is something that I never really thought of for James particularly because I was always worried about how am I going to explain a period to a nonverbal girl? Like you just won't be able to, right? And so that was always my like forefront of my mind was, oh my god, the period is going to be so the worst part. I never thought that for James puberty would be a big issue. Did you ever think of that? It wasn't in our
I
forethought.
didn't even like. He's only 10. Like I don't.
Well, yeah, but he's got hair in places he didn't before, and
Oh,
he's
I
going
know.
through
He
it.
spent a lot of time in his room alone. All of a sudden.
We won't get into that. But that is kind of one of the weird things about puberty as they start exploring things that they didn't
At
before.
least he's
At least he's doing it in the
doing his
privacy of
room.
his own room. Yeah,
But he
it's fair.
does very often not
They're watching
care how
something.
much clothes he has on when he's walking around.
Yeah. So he's a naked boy usually, and that's hard for us because he doesn't really understand the idea of privacy. And how do you explain the idea of privacy to a child that doesn't understand it? Like there's no fucking way. And we just try to like remind him that if the blinds are open or he's outside or around people who aren't his family members, then he needs to make sure that he's clothed. So
Yeah, he doesn't give a shit.
he's been better about not unclothing at school, so they
Oh
say.
yeah, well they said at schools
It was when
when
he
he
was
would
on
go to
his
the
way to the
bathroom,
bathroom.
he'd just get ready on the way.
He'd just be like, "I'm getting ready. Goodbye." Um,
Just being efficient.
yeah, you know what though? Kudos to him. Oh, by the way, another thing that has been different over the last 2 years for our oldest two is that they are potty trained now, which is something we never even thought was possible for our oldest. We were getting to the point where we thought
He's the best one.
incontinence would be his regular. And, we would still try, but like we've been the types where we're not going to push things on our children. And I think that is wildly different than a lot of people. And I'm not hating on other people. Like, that's not what I'm getting at. What I'm saying is, we were waiting for. There are fruit flies everywhere. We don't know how to handle the fruit flies, okay? I don't even know. There's probably an apple somewhere hidden in a corner that we have not accessed in a while, and that's why they're here. But I digress. Let's be real. We do clean. It's just we have children with autism and they don't understand basic cleaning. And so sometimes we'll find something that's been waiting for a while to be found in a place that, you wouldn't necessarily clean on the regular. And that's when we realize why we have fruit flies. Anyways, that being said, we thought that their regular would always be incontinence. We like especially for our oldest because he was nearing the age of 8
He's
when
terrified of the toilet.
he was terrified of the toilet and we couldn't feel good about pushing him into something that he was uncomfortable with, so we just didn't, right? Like we were like, here's the option, we're going to show you the option, but if you're terrified, we're not going to fucking push you. Like it's just not. And like even with the showers, like he wouldn't want to do a shower. He'd only want to do a bath until recently because he was terrified of the shower. So like again, we wouldn't push him into anything. We'd just say, "Okay, like we understand you're scared. Like that's no big deal. We can bathe you instead or whatever." So he was in diapers until just recently. And it took a while for him to get the hang of it, and that's like huge thanks to our second who started to get the hang of it first and showed him the ropes, which is great because I have noticed that he's learning a lot from our second because he doesn't pay attention to other peers, right? Like he doesn't give a fuck about his peers. And like that's not to say they're not great kids or whatever. It's just he doesn't have that social. So it was really great when Charlotte started to become more interested in potty training that then that kind of was the catalyst to James also. So the last 2 years they've been potty trained. The youngest is still not ready yet, and we're not going to push. And part of the reason why she's not ready yet is not because she doesn't understand when she's gone in her diaper. She does. She takes it off. That she doesn't understand the hygienic part of not touching things that are not hygienic, and she is very much into the sensory play and unfortunately sometimes poop play. So finger painting. Forbidden Play-Doh. Anyways, so we just think that right now she's not ready. And a lot of people will disagree with that, and that's fair. But the way that we've, kind of done our parenting journey is we're gonna go with whatever we can to make them comfortable, and then when they're ready, they'll show us. And it's been okay so far. But again, our oldest is being the most difficult so far. And that's fair because he's going through puberty, but also he's navigating a new world of like peer situation and, you know, different types of, what's the word? Like expectations on him that he's not used to because he was until this past year, like prior to this year, sorry, in a regular classroom because in Ontario, they will not allow you to do DE until about grade 4, which is, I think, ridiculous because then it like leads everyone into a stressful situation. Like the teachers are trying to figure out a way to navigate having different children with different needs in their classrooms when they're trying to already, you know, explain mathematics to children who like 2 years of school didn't really get that concept until grade 1. So like for the next 3 years they will be kind of the outsiders in their own classroom because there's really nothing there for them, and they'll try to do like an IEP, but it just won't end up being enough. And so our youngest is dealing with that right now, and it's hard, like she's no longer in kindergarten, she's in grade 1, so she has expectations on her that she didn't before, and she's just gonna have to navigate that until they'll allow her to go to DE. So there's new expectations on James. It's a lot. He also started ABA the past year, and it was horrible. It was a horrible experience, and one I wish we never did. Um, to not get into it too much, ABA was difficult for him. Because they didn't really have set expectations on him. Like they honestly, the way that I saw any reports, which by the way, they didn't let me sit in on anything. They didn't give me day-to-day communication on what he was doing. They just kind of took our child and then expected us to do like these meetings with them, but then they like the person who's supposed to spearhead the meeting wouldn't show up. So we had no idea what they were doing with our son. And then one time Charlie went in to grab James, and do you want to say what happened?
I could hear her yelling at him from upstairs.
So,
She stopped when she saw I was there.
yeah,
There's no reason to be.
yelling at someone else's kid.
She wasn't like. It wasn't like crazy out of control screaming, but it was not encouraging. And it's not any way that I would imagine would speak to a disabled child.
On top of that, like, let's be real. I'm a healthcare worker. There are situations where I've been extremely frustrated with a resident under my care. But had I ever raised my voice at them? No. Like, you just understand that some people don't understand what's going on. They're not trying to be frustrating. They're just trying to navigate whatever is going on in their own way. And you just have to deal with it like that. Also, to be fair, these people are not the parents. Like, they're not the parents. That's a professional setting. So if you feel comfortable doing that when you know it's his home time and someone could be walking in on you, what are you doing the other 7 hours? Like it was just worrisome for us.
And he was a fucking rage monster every day he came home from.
When he came home from ABA, he started, having more escalated behaviors instead of having better behaviors. And though they would say we weren't consistent in it, which I mean, like, fuck them because we're still trying to deal with the fact that we have to pay for life and we both work full time, but also he needs some consistency in his regular routine as well. And they weren't giving us any information on what to do to, continue his programming at home either. Like, there really wasn't any communication. So it's like, how could we be consistent? So, bottom line is, it made him more aggressive. And his aggressive behaviors got so bad this past year that he's broken like, what, 7 or 8 tablets at this point.
No, I don't think
Um,
that many.
yeah,
I think it's
because
6.
no, we fixed them and then they broke again.
Okay.
And then, well, and I'm counting those 2 phones.
Just one phone.
2.
No, I think it's just one phone, Jess.
Oh. Well, anyways, point of the matter is several. And
More than 0.
more than 0. And it's been a lot of money to deal with that. And then he's also broken 2 TVs in the past 2 years. And he tries to break that. So we have that instead. It's a
We used to
projector.
have a nice big pull-down screen,
And we use,
retractable screen,
yes,
but we can't now because it's like
he was
it's a
breaking
bit.
it
It's
and
not. It weighs a lot, and you
could
can't
kill
have that
somebody.
swinging from a 10-foot ceiling hit you in the head.
Yeah, so he's just been more aggressive and it's a lot. And we don't know how to navigate it necessarily, and anytime we talk to somebody, it's like right now we're doing the medication route. And are we finding incredible results? No. There's not as many outbursts necessarily like that.
No, I think there are
Maybe
just as
there's
many as he doesn't stay
he doesn't
mad
stay as
as
angry
long,
with the medication,
but
but
he gets there just as fast.
yeah, he's 0 to 60. There's no fucking telling. And, that's just it. Is like a lot of people will be like, what happened before this? We need to know the behavior before this. And it's like a lot of the time we'll just be sitting there and all of a sudden I'll get hit in the face or he'll hit the wall with his hand.
Or like the slightest little whine,
And
Charlotte,
it's like a lot. Yeah.
and you're like, shut up, shut up.
Yeah.
And it's too late though. He already heard it.
So another thing is our second is very attached to James, and James is very attached to her. So them two are like, people always ask, are they twins? And it's like, no, he is 2 years older than her and a bit actually, but that they're very close and they care about each other a lot. So whenever she gets upset about the littlest thing, and because she's autistic, she whines immediately. Like it's like the littlest thing could be the biggest thing to her. And that's a lot because then it gets him very angry and he starts to really hurt himself.
Or Katie.
Or he does run after the youngest to kind of get her attention more.
He knows he is very quick on the uptake. He learns very quickly, and one thing that he has learned is the things that we don't want him to do. So then when he is mad,
he does those things.
that's what he's going to do. He's going to find the thing that you want him the thing that you want for
Least
him to
him.
do least.
Yeah. And
So throw tablet at TV, attack Caitlin, kick dog,
so on and so forth.
anything he thinks you really don't want him to do, that's what he's going to do.
So let's talk about, now that we've gone kind of really in depth about what we're dealing with now, let's talk about the first time we noticed something different with each of them. So do you want to go first? Like, when is the first moment you consciously knew something was different with James? Like, do you remember a specific time where you're like, oh, he's different?
Um, he, well, not that it was necessarily a bad thing, but he slept like real easy.
Yeah, so contrary to what you're hearing upstairs right now, our oldest used to sleep very
He
well.
still sleeps really well. He just gets up real early.
Yeah. So he used to sleep throughout the night as a baby, but that was after a period of like 6 months of purple cry. So it was more like later infancy into toddler that he started to sleep like really, really well. And people were like, well, he's really a great sleeper the way you guys are talking about it. And I'm like, yeah, that's great. But like were there any other indications in the early
Well,
stages that you noticed?
I don't know. Like he did take a long time to walk, but
So he wasn't off for walking though. Like that's
I
just
don't know.
another thing
Like
is like
it's hard for me to remember because
18 months
this was
is
10 years
usually like
ago, and
sorry,
um
I know.
and he's the first baby I ever met.
Yeah, so Charles wasn't very versed in babydom before this.
But I thought it was weird that he was like 3 months. I could say Dada, and he would say it.
Yeah, so he started talking around the 3, 4 months, and it was like not conversational speak, but it was, mama, dada, and he did say hey,
Yeah, and we could if you asked him to say
something, he would
something, he
repeat
would
it.
try sometimes.
And
Not always, but
that was unusual, but we thought, being intellectual people ourselves,
good. We did.
we were like, wow, we did right. We've got such a smart kid on our hands. Yay, go us. Like the first indication, actually, we just thought, oh, we've got a high IQ baby here. Like we've done great. Like and not to say he's not high IQ now. That's not what we're saying. We're saying like our indication was, oh, he's just gifted. And then about 6 months, he stopped really looking at us and stopped babbling, stopped saying those 3 or 4 words that he would say. And
He really. We had a hard time getting him off of
Similac.
formula. That was a big thing for me. Was the his diet because he was so consistent in what he ate before, and then out of nowhere he's like he doesn't want pasta and meat sauce, and he doesn't want the blueberries, and
Yeah. So with James, it was hard because initially he was like eating blueberries and eating apples and eating strawberries
He'd
and
eat pretty much anything you gave him.
anything you'd give him, he was super invested in whatever it was, right? And like that was great because it's like, wow, baby eats everything. Like, who gets that, right? So we were very excited at first because it seemed as though he was quote unquote typical. And he would even eat these, like, he loved these freeze dried yogurt bites that
Oh, yeah.
Gerber made. I don't know if they still make them, but President's Choice also made them at some point, and then we started going to the President's Choice ones because they were just less expensive. But he stopped eating those. He stopped eating pretty much everything, and he would just stick to the formula. Like he only wanted the formula, and we were like, "What the hell?" Like he was eating solids at 6 months, like. So prior to new knowledge where like you can go a little bit longer without giving solids or baby led weaning or anything like that, we were giving purees and like freeze dried things and stuff like that, as per recommendations at the time. And he was eating them and then he just stopped and he only wanted his formula and it got so expensive. It was what, $75 every week to feed him. It was a lot. Because formula for an 18-monther.
Once that corner store had it.
Yeah, the corner store was great.
Fucking Similac coupons.
Oh yeah, I got to the point where like we were hurting because of this, and I would be like, now we're gonna get free because I'm gonna coupon so damn good. I was good at couponing. Anyways, so that was an indication for us. Another thing is he didn't really give a fuck about his peers. Like he had two other children born literally around the same time as him in the family that he was around quite often at the initial stages. And then he just didn't give a fuck about them. Like did not want to interact, right? So Addie and Madison are our nieces and they were born in the February and March after October when he was born. And so they're all around the same age. And he just didn't care to interact with them, and that was another indication. Like we had Madison a few times to watch, like at our house, when my brother was working, and he would not interact with her whatsoever. Like did not care. And that was another big indication that something was different because she was so invested in interacting with him and he was just like, I don't really give a fuck. So that was another big indication. Now, what would you say was a big indication for oh, so I guess so James's diagnosis was at 2 and 9 months. Hi, Charlotte. Oh, we're doing something, honey. Are you going to go to bed, please?
Do you need something, bud?
Do you need anything?
What is that?
Wipes.
Wipes? Why? What happened?
Dolls.
Dolls?
Yeah.
My doll's dirty?
Do you want to grab her something? Bunny, they're right in the thing there. You turned off my thing somehow. I had a light, and now I don't. Okay, but then Daddy has to close the gate quick. And see, this is where I'm going to have to learn how to edit because this is maybe going to happen. This is why we're doing it so late at night. I think that's okay. Honestly, I don't know if that dry brushing. Oh my god. Anyways. There. So, that being said, that was the first indication of James. And he was diagnosed at 2 and 9 months. And then we had Charlotte before his diagnosis happened. And she is 2 years and what, 3 months or 4 months difference to him. So, October, 2 and 4 months difference between James and Charlotte. So Charlotte's a different story. So Charlotte is the one that just came down right now and asked for wipes for her babies. I hope she's not gonna waste a whole thing of wipes, but she probably will. Anyways, Charlotte was a unique situation because we were told while I was still pregnant with her at, I want to say, the 16-week ultrasound that she had cysts in the brain. Cerebral plexus cysts is what they called them. And that meant that she was more likely than not to have trisomy of some sort, whether it be Down syndrome or trisomy 22, um, or be stillborn in some way. Like trisomy has a wide variety of things. Like you can have Down syndrome trisomy or a trisomy where you don't develop at all, so you're like not viable, um, as like you won't be able to breathe on your own or anything like that when you come out. Um, or severe disabilities where you would likely die in infancy or early years. So there's different varieties of trisomy, but they didn't really give us a specific one. They just
talk about it again after that.
No, they just told us that she was more than likely to have trisomy, and that could mean that we're not going home with her. So that was a hard pregnancy because the whole time I'm thinking, my son's different. We haven't got a diagnosis for him, but we know he's different. We're on the wait list for, seeing this doctor. And now our second born has something wrong. And it crushed me. I'm not gonna lie. Like, this is where I probably gained the most weight. Um, because like I almost bounced right back after James, but Charlotte, I was so depressed that I didn't. Um, and it's because I didn't know if we were gonna bring her home. And although my screens, other than that, were going well, and she was growing, and it didn't seem as though there was anything wrong with her heart. From the scans and stuff, it still was like a back of my mind, like, fuck our lives. We just have really bad luck. Like, what happened? Um, so when she came out, like, our initial thought was, we're gonna have this room prepared for this child, regardless of whether or not when she comes out, she'll be alive. So we got the room prepared. I painted pink in her room. We got pink curtains, which they still have the same curtains, the girls. And we got this pink crib, like, set up, and
That was white.
well, the crib itself was white, but the bedding and stuff was pink. And we did a butterfly theme for her first theme because butterflies are stronger than they appear. Like, they're very delicate, but they're stronger. So we had that theme because we didn't know whether or not she was going to make it, but we were confident that she would give it her best try and that we were going to have to just love her for as long as we have her, right? So when she came out, she was the biggest baby I had. And she came out fully pink and breathing and immediately latched to breastfeed. I was like, what the fuck? Like, I was so surprised in a happy way. Like, I think Charles and I did a huge sigh of relief because when she came out, they said she did not have Down syndrome or trisomy in any way, and that her heart was healthy, except for she does have a murmur, and that she did fail the hearing test, but that can happen. They'll just double check later. And she was for all, tests perfect, like it was surreal. And it was the first time I had a baby where I got to hold the baby right after. Because when James came out, he wasn't breathing for 10 minutes and they wouldn't fucking tell me. And I was like, I'm not fucking stupid. It was about 10 minutes, yeah. Yeah, because she stitched me up. I was watching the clock. I was watching the clock.
Yeah, but he was crying over another thing before they brought him back over. It wasn't he wasn't like that for
No,
10 minutes.
I'm saying it was 10 minutes of them working on him
Oh yeah,
before they
okay.
brought him back over. Like he was having a hard time breathing. He came out blue.
Yeah.
Like he was not okay. And it was a meconium birth. I had to push before my body was ready, so I wasn't totally dilated. And I pushed him out because they said like he's not gonna make it and there's
Because of fucking everything drained out.
and I had no water too, yeah. It was a bad situation. It was a very bad birth. So in comparison, it was a great birth for Charlotte, and we were so thrilled. We brought her home, and she did wonderful up until about 17 months. Like there was nothing foreseeable with her except for her hearing. And so we were like, wow, we won't have to worry about the same worries that we have with James. And then 17 months went and passed, and she started to kind of veer from the milestones that a typical child would into kind of like not quite meeting those milestones. And that's when I knew something was up. Do you want to talk about the first moment you knew something was up?
I don't remember with her.
Yeah, it was harder with her. Like, I'm not gonna lie. I told
Because there
Charles,
was a long time where I thought, eh, maybe she's okay.
well, and that's not to say that she's not okay or that we don't love them the way that
Well,
they
I think
are.
it fucked her up quite a bit not being able to talk, be able to communicate for a while.
So yeah, the hearing was a
Because
huge issue.
otherwise,
Her
like
language did not.
she's pretty with it.
Now, the issue is that she still doesn't understand danger.
Well,
She doesn't
she doesn't have the ability
foresee things.
to like she needs someone to tell her it's dangerous. She won't be like, "Oh, I don't like the look of that."
Yeah. And that's another thing is like
Which I guess probably most kids are like that anyway.
I don't think so. Um she had more caution than our youngest. We'll go into that in a second. She had more caution. Even James had more caution um than our youngest
Well,
when it comes to like certain things. But that
he does
she
things very carefully, but he takes a lot of fucking risks.
yeah, that's true. But that she,
Calculated
you
risks.
know, she really, what is the word I'm looking for? She's not as good about danger necessarily as like a typical child might be, right? Like she's just not. And she's kind of aloof when it comes to certain things. So like though she is doing a lot better than the other two, and I'm not saying that to like judge the other two. It's just a comparison we make because this is our lives. Um, but that she still struggles quite a bit. Like, she doesn't understand sometimes when she gets angry or like she gets upset, she doesn't communicate those feelings very well. And she like explodes. But also, she doesn't listen at all when you're trying to explain certain things. Like, at all. She's not listening. And it's really hard because we're trying so desperately to make it like obvious to her that like we understand this is difficult, but at the same time we need to do this and this because this is the way it has to go or whatever. Like we're trying to be understanding about the fact that she's not understanding things quite the way she should be, but it's hard because she is verbal. So she's our first and only child that started talking. And because she couldn't hear for the first while. Like, I truly believe she would have been diagnosed with level 2 autism if not for that piece right there, where she's kind of trying to catch up now with the communication.
She's still not,
And she's still not fully
and
there.
I'm not convinced that she gets any kind of help.
I don't, and see, that's just it. It's like, she's doing better than the other two, so they don't give her 1-to-1 EA, which I think is fucking stupid, but
She's still
that's my
supposed to be
opinion.
getting stuff. She's supposed to be getting help.
Yeah. But, I feel like a lot of it is they're not concerned about her, so they don't.
No, they don't care because it's like the
And that's
first
nothing
time.
against the school.
It's
It's
a little
against,
bit. No,
no, it's against the Thames Valley. It's against Thames Valley because let's be very
the
frank.
first time I heard anything about somebody actually working with her was this year, this past like the end of the year.
No, she had EAs before.
No, 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 that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about someone like whose job it is to work with her on her speech.
They did though.
What?
She had speech at school. She just didn't have it
What?
consistently.
Yeah, well, that's the problem. Like,
But that's just it, is that speech pathologist has to do the entire school. So like it is on Thames Valley because
okay,
I'm sure the speech
and she has to
pathologist
do the
wants to
entire
see
school. How many kids there need it?
a lot actually.
And so, what does she do?
She has to divide her time, Charles.
Okay, well, she's got. It's. I'm assuming she works full time.
Charles, stop.
What? It doesn't. Just doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
It makes perfect sense to me because I see where even healthcare has its limitations because of the amount of fucking people we have or the amount of like certain needs that have been given an access to our facility and we don't have the proper stuff for it. It's just the way that it works. So I'm not judging the school. Um, that's just my opinion. Um, that being said,
Well, I know what it is. I know exactly what it is. It's just
Thames Valley.
no, it's just in general, it's a big jerk off. It's like, oh yeah, we're doing these services we've got in every school. We've got all these,
But they don't.
people that, but you look, that's a surface level thing, and if you look into it at all, it's like, well, yeah, you have those services available, but the quality of the service is really lacking
But that's also not
because
their fault.
they don't follow up on it.
They just don't have the means, Charles. So anyway, getting back to it, it was harder because that was almost like that was a hard blow for me because it's like first we think we're not taking her home. Then we get to take her home and we think she's doing great except for her hearing. We get the hearing settled after the fact, but like she gets a diagnosis of autism and we're like we were told this wasn't super possible. Cuz like even when I was pregnant and James was getting his diagnosis like kind of started where like he was getting the referrals and stuff, they were telling us it's like don't worry. And that's the part where I'm like, fuck doctors, because they told me not to worry, like as if it wasn't even a possibility. They said, like, it's highly rare. That's why I'm like, is it rare or are we just not talking enough about this shit? Like, is this shit not getting talked about enough? I don't know because I haven't seen it. That's why we're doing this because there might be a community out there that we just haven't even been able to access yet and that other people haven't been able to access yet. Like we see so many higher functioning children on YouTube like as like a this is their parenthood and how they're dealing with it and these are the higher functioning children. We don't see a lot of the severe. And when you do, it's usually like they have one child. And a lot of the time, and I'm not saying that this is like
What? What?
funny monkey. She likes funny monkey on YouTube. By the way.
That's not certain how morally correct it is for her to be watching.
I don't know if the monkey's okay. Like, is the monkey in a dangerous, compromised position? I don't know. It's kind of weird. Like, some of the things I'm like, I don't know if I would have made the monkey do that. But what do I fucking know? I don't own a monkey. But anyways, the next the next thing is like we were told no way, not possible. Can't fucking happen. And 2 years and I want to say 3 months in, she's diagnosed. and we're going, what is this? Like, what happened? I'm not sure. Um, and we're feeling like big failures because at this point, now that she's getting diagnosed, and like when we got pregnant with Caitlin, our youngest, we had this interpretation that Charlotte was okay and that she wasn't autistic because of the people that we had talked to, but also the situation was that Charlotte was doing better, right? So we got pregnant with Caitlin because I mean, like, another thing to talk about is I was told that with my fibromyalgia, the older I get having children, the harder it will be. And that would be very stressful on my body. So we had children very quickly. Like, we did not wait very long. And so I was 22 when I had James. And that was quick because we had just gotten married when I was 21. We got pregnant like a couple months later. And then here we have this kid. So it was quite a whirlwind. But anyways, um, we we got pregnant with Caitlin before Charlotte was diagnosed, before we even knew there was going to be an issue with Charlotte. So, anyways, then now the concern is we're going to have three with autism. And everyone told us, don't think like that. That's not a confirmed thing. And just because two of them do and they present differently anyways, it doesn't mean that you're going to have a third with autism. And don't think like that. Everyone does that, like, don't doomsday thing. And it pisses me off because it's like, I'm being realistic here.
Well, yeah, but what are they supposed to say?
I know, but like, I'm being realistic, and this is a realistic fear of mine because now I'm having to navigate two children with autism and I'm pregnant. Um, but like, they always do the don't doomsday bullshit, and I just want to be like, be realistic with me for a second. Like, we didn't think the second was gonna have autism. And now we're noticing differences, and I haven't even popped out this kid yet. You know, like, somebody should have been like, we get it. We get that that's scary. Somebody should have been like, your opinion is valid. That's a scary situation. But nobody did that. Everyone was like, don't do that.
It doesn't do for you though.
Well, I just wanted to not feel like I was fucking crazy because everyone always makes you seem like you're crazy when you're like going through it. Right? Like, what?
There's always a fucking cat here.
But anyways, it's just one of those things where you can't really do much about it. Um and it's just not wise for people to be like, don't think like that. And like, if you're here and you're not an autism parent and you're not an autism part of the community, there's the clumsiness. Um, and you're just watching because you know us or whatever, just don't do that to parents when they're freaking out about something. Be like, you know what, your concerns are valid and I'm gonna listen to you. Don't be like, don't do that. No. Like, that's so much of a piss off. I'm sorry. Um, because it's like, I'm not being unrealistic. Like, I'm being very realistic right now. Um, so that being said, we have our third. She comes out fine, didn't she? She's darker than the other two, which means she got more of my native side. And she has darker eyes than the other two, too. And she's the cutest kid I've ever seen. Don't ever tell the other two I said this, okay? They're not allowed to watch these videos. Um, and she was doing very well for a long time. In fact, probably about 18, 19 months before we noticed differences. Because she was our first to try to climb out of cribs. She was our first to try to figure out the fucking playpen. She would be able to get out of every playpen we had. And this is like early stages where we're like, the fuck? We didn't have, like, we had two potato kids, and I love them. Don't get me wrong, but they weren't super active as babies, were they? Like, not at all. They weren't active children. Like, I could literally put them somewhere without a strap and not worry about it. Like, that's how very inactive they were. So,
She wouldn't stay in the high chair. She
she
wouldn't
wouldn't
stay
stay
anything.
anywhere. And
Stick her feet out in front of the stroller.
oh my God, she was so much. She was so much. And we were going, maybe this is typical. Like, maybe this is the normal. And this is why normal will be harder for us because we're not used to normal. Like this is what we were thinking because she was doing all these things that the other two didn't do. And then we started to notice differences with peers. And the only way we noticed differences with peers is that we had been through the rodeo. We knew what we were supposed to look for. And even though she was the only child that never went to daycare because of the pandemic, thank you, fucking pandemic, like not socializing to children whatsoever, because of it. But anyway, she was the only one not to go to daycare and stuff. So it's not like we saw a very good representation of like where she was at versus her peers, but we knew what we were supposed to be looking for, and she wasn't meeting those milestones.
She was also, Bunny didn't do it, but she did a lot of the same stimming gestures that James did.
So she stimmed a lot more, but this is different from the other two. She actually did actions of songs with us and stuff like that, though. Like when the Wiggles were on, she would be doing like open, shut them, like actions with us, which was new for us because the other two were like potatoes, like I said, and they just laid there a lot of the time. So,
Well, I thought that she was just seeing James do that and copying him.
but that's another typical thing, like, right? Like, children with autism don't typically copy other children. So we were thinking, wow, you know what? Maybe we did. Maybe we did. Guess what? Guess what, guys? She's actually our most severe. She's our most severe one because she was never socialized. So she gets her diagnoses, and thank God for, I'm gonna say the name because I'm saying a good review. Dr. Elizabeth Roach Fox. She's amazing. I mean, literally the nicest lady. I had one instance where I felt like she was being a little bit judgmental, and I just mentioned to her, like, I feel like you're being judgmental right now. And you know what? This is the first doctor who was like, I am so sorry. I did not mean to come across that way. Let's talk about it. Instead of like, well, you're a fucking dumbass kind of like act, because people do that a lot with women. They treat them very poorly in the medical field. So she was the first person to be like, I'm so sorry. Like, let's talk about this. And that was great. She diagnosed our girls. James did not get diagnosed by Dr. Elizabeth Roach Fox. He got diagnosed by, I'm not going to say the name. I'm not going to say the name because guy's a prick and I don't want to, I don't want to have a
I
negative
didn't know a
review
walking
podcast.
anus could get a medical degree.
They can. Anyways, the guy was so judgmental, did not listen to us. And anytime I said something, even though Charles would back it up, he'd be like, fabricated story. I'd be like, Charles is literally sitting here and he's saying exactly what I said is true. And he's like, woman's crazy. Like, literally in James's diagnosing paperwork, it goes, compelling story. Like, as if he's saying, like, fake story. But
Missing was the slash S.
I just wanted to be like,
Compelling.
I was so angry at him too. I was angry because no matter how many times I said anything, he just like blew it off. Like even James's pica diagnosis is not on paper. And the reason it's not on paper is because he said, well, people should just know that comes with autism. I'm like, not all autistic people are the same, you motherfucking piece of shit. Like, I'm sorry, but not every autistic person has pica. Not every autistic person has epilepsy, even though it's more prevalent in the autism community. I just think this guy was a prick. Anyways, we won't say his name because we're not about negative reviews here. We're just about telling our story. And so those were the first times we noticed something was different with our kids. They got their diagnoses like very shortly after. I am the type of person where I'm like, okay, so now that something's different, we got to get something written on paper and we got to get them as all the supports. Like there are some people who are like, let's wait till school. And I'm like, no, we are doing this now and we are doing it properly so that when they get to school, they already have stuff in place. Like, I get so angry at people who are like, let's not go through the diagnosing stuff until the teachers say something. I'm like, I'm sorry. It's not, sorry, my chair is making noises. It's not the teacher's responsibility. It's not the teacher's responsibility to diagnose your children. I got enough going on as is. There are so many children that are undiagnosed right now, and this should be diagnosed. Like, not necessarily with autism, but just in general, something's going on, and they should be seen by a diagnosing pediatrician. And they're not being seen by a diagnosing pediatrician because their parents are like, you know what, let's wait. Maybe they'll change, you know? And like, I get that. I get it kind of because I'm like, I get that there's like still hope when it's not on paperwork. But how is that helping your kid, right? Like, it doesn't help them. But, anyways, so I was very quick to early on get the diagnosis. I called, like, when our third started to show signs, I called the doctor at her private clinic, her private numbers. Like, I was brutal. And she was probably like, this girl is insane. But the truth is, I was worried that if she didn't get her diagnosed quick enough, she wouldn't be on the OAP. And to find out that although the other two were on the OAP, and we're the same parents, we're biological parents of both of these children, and this third that's trying to get on this list, we always lived at the same address with all these children. We don't have any fucking like custody battle or anything like that. They said because of an address issue, she hadn't been on it for 2 years that we thought she was on the wait list. So now she's even farther behind. OAP do better. Like, go fuck yourselves. But anyways,
And
let's
fuck Doug Ford. Like,
and fuck Doug Ford. Let's just say that.
he
I
could
don't
use a
care.
good fuck, I think, because there's got to be some reason he's such a
He's
fucking
not
asshole.
getting rammed enough. Okay, somebody needs to fuck that man. He needs to be happier in life. He has really fucked us over. Anyways, I'm sorry if you're a conservative watching. You probably shouldn't be watching this podcast. I'm just gonna say it. I think that a lot of conservatives don't understand that liberals aren't saying give money to everyone. They're saying let's prioritize social health. You know, social health is social wealth, baby. Anyways, next thing is handling public perception. Charles and I have a different way of handling public perception. He has a slower burn when it comes to anger, which is good. Somebody needs to. Because I am quick to go, fuck you, your mother, and I will burn your house down. And not literally, just like, that's my attitude. Charles is the slow burn, but then when he gets angry, he's angrier. So, do you want to talk about how do you handle public perception of?
People usually aren't doing too much when I'm around.
That's
I
fair.
haven't had many occasions to call anybody out on anything, and when I do, it's not. I don't know if I've ever actually been in a situation where someone has said something that I could address. Usually it's just I catch somebody kind of like staring at us when one of them's squealing, and then I just kind of stare at them back. Like, what the fuck are you looking at?
Yeah, the stares are the most of what we get. Like, most people are just very gawky, and I want to, like, you know how, like, those cartoons when their eyes pop out of their head? I want to, like, hit them in the back of the head so they stay that way. You know what I mean? But I don't, obviously, because assault is wrong. But it comes across my mind. I'm not gonna lie. So the stares are the most of what we get. There are comments though. Have you had a comment happen?
No,
Not no.
no. I keep waiting though. One of these days, man. You should catch me on the wrong day and say something stupid.
Don't say that. I don't want you in the back of a cop car. I've had comments. So the first comment I noticed ever was when I was walking James to daycare. And there were a whole bunch of construction workers working on the sidewalk. So I was walking around them, and James had his soother until 4.
Susan.
Mr. Suze. So the reason is because he was orally stimming, and we couldn't find anything that he would take other than the soother. And he would literally have a meltdown anytime you tried to take it away. And so we realized that it was a soothing mechanism, and we talked to the doctors about it. They said really after 4 he should not have it, because it's bad for his teeth, but until then it's not that big of a deal. So we just let him have it until he was a little bit older because it was a way of calming himself. These construction workers decided to not only say something, but physically take the soother out of my son's mouth and say, "You're too old for this." And I was like, "He has autism, assholes. Give it back." And they're like, "Well," and one of the construction workers was like, "What the fuck are these guys doing?" Like he must have been a parent of the crowd because these were very young people. And he was like, "Why are you touching someone else's kid?" Like he batted me, which is nice because he was like, "What the fuck are you guys doing? Don't touch someone else's kid. Give him that back." But I also was like, "Go fuck yourself." Like I was so rude. I was so rude back. I don't even care. I was like, "Go fuck yourselves." Like, what is your fucking problem? And so anyways, they gave back the soother and we kept walking. That was the first instance. Then the second instance was we took them out for Halloween.
Oh,
So we literally were trying to foresee anything that could
this was
possibly happen.
I think this was like the first time that I'd ever actually been there for when something happened like that. It still wasn't quite on the level of like, no, actually, no. If it were to happen now, I would definitely have something to say. But because I hadn't really
Witnessed it
seen
before.
something like that before, I didn't even register what had happened until after we'd already walked away. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, I can't believe that somebody just actually did that.
So when we were out for Halloween, we foresaw something bad happening, or at least I did, because I've been through it with James and I got so many stares and like scoffs and stuff when having James out. I was still pregnant with Caitlin at the time, and like Charlotte was just like walking, like she was so tiny. And James loved Smarties; it was his favorite thing. He hadn't really tried any other chocolate, right? Like he wasn't really interested in anything else. So
No,
we
but I, you're not gonna say this. You made cards, right?
That's what I'm saying.
You did that because of this.
No, no,
You didn't do that until the
I
next
did
year.
it the first year. Yes, I did.
I don't think so.
Um, so I made cards to hand out to people. And we went to the mall because we felt like that was the safest option because we don't know anybody around
Yeah,
our
it's like a
area.
little kid. You're not gonna walk around all night.
And we've got little kids. We're not going to walk around outside all night. And I was pregnant at the time. And so it just seemed like a safer option to go to the mall to do it. And we went trick or treating at the mall. So the first couple places we went to were very kind. They read the pamphlet that says, "Hi, my name is James. I have autism. I'm nonverbal. I really love Smarties. And I can't say trick or treat, but I do thank you for helping and giving me the trick or treating candy kind of thing." Right? It was cute. I made a whole bunch of them. I'm pretty sure I even laminated them. I was a great, like, advocate, and most people read the fucking pamphlet, gave them the Smarties out of the bowl, and we're like, "Cool." We get to, was it Visage?
I don't remember the place. I just remember the fucking idiot that was there.
So the first person that said
No, it was
something,
some kind of bougie fucking clothes store.
clothing store or Visage. It was around that area in the mall.
And it's
And
not even that fancy because of the mall that it's in.
anyways,
So I don't know what the fuck she.
so they went up. I hand the pamphlet. She doesn't even look at the pamphlet. And she realizes James is grabbing candy. And we're thinking, okay, like maybe she just doesn't care.
No, dude. She put the shit in his thing. And then one of us said trick or treat for him or something. And she's like, "Can you say trick or treat?" And he's nonverbal, so he just kind of didn't do it. So then she reached in his bucket and took the candy back.
Oh, I
She
thought
put it in
he
there.
grabbed
No,
it.
no, no. He wasn't doing that. She put it in there.
So she took the candy back. And the mama bear in me wanted to literally rip her face off. Like, I was like, the fuck? Like, not only is he only like 4 at the time, he's not that old. Like, he's still got a baby face and everything. So, why are you looking at this like pint-sized person as if they're supposed to have an intellectual conversation with you is beyond me.
He's capable of that anyway.
But he's also nonverbal. And we gave you a fucking pamphlet if you had read it, motherfucker. But anyways, she took the candy back from him. And I wanted to rip her a new one. And Charles was like, let's go. I don't want you in the back of the cop car. And of course,
No,
pregnant.
I didn't even like we got the fuck out of there pretty quick. I didn't even
Well, because I was also pregnant and I was going to rip her
I
face off.
couldn't fathom what had just happened. I didn't even like hit me until a couple seconds
I
later
was trying to stay out of the
that
police.
that they had
Yeah,
she'd just
patrol
done
car.
that. And like even I don't who cares if the kid's disabled or not?
You just
Wouldn't
don't.
do that. I mean, who the
No.
fuck does that? Who would
Okay,
do that to
like
any kid?
also, even if he's not disabled, he was only like yay hot. You know, like he wasn't a big kid. It's not like you would expect much conversation from a little kid, anyways.
I hope that's one of those things where she's just like
She looks back on it and she cringes.
just for one of those things where you're doing something that's kind of mundane and your mind just wanders and then you just kind of land on one of those things where like 10 years ago you did that thing and you're like, "Oh fuck, I wish I hadn't done that."
I don't think she
I hope
does.
that's that thing for that girl and she just is
I don't
like
think she does. I
she
hope
doesn't
she
take a
read the
shit
pamphlet after we walked away, though, and realized what a fucking asshole she is. Like, I don't think
but
she
that
thinks
wasn't
that.
even the only
I have a cringe
because there
moment.
was a fucking that guy at
I did something once.
the
So
guy at fucking Spirit Halloween.
then we walked over to Spirit Halloween,
Like,
which was
I
at
get
the
it,
end of
man.
the
You're
mall
working at
hall.
Spirit Halloween on Halloween. I understand. It's not where you want
Yeah.
to be.
So we walked across the mall hall into the Spirit Halloween direction, and we get up there, and I hand the pamphlet, and again, person doesn't look at the pamphlet. And I'm like, when someone hands me something, you know what I don't do? I don't just hold it and not look. Because, like, wouldn't you think that's weird? They handed me something. Maybe I should look at it. You know, not like,
And
oh, thanks. Maybe he thought I was handing his number, my number to him or something. Like, who doesn't
no,
look at the card?
well, no, he was not. Look, anyway, it's not like this is a fucking like busy place.
It's not.
We're in like the deadest fucking mall in the city.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like these people have been doing this all day and they couldn't possibly be bothered to deal with any more people. It's like fucking 4 o'clock and there's like nothing but fucking
Trick or
senior
treaters
citizens in there anyway,
and
and
seniors.
they
Yeah.
aren't even in the stores. They're walking around because they're getting exercise in there. It's not like these people are rushed off their feet.
So,
So
anyways,
where's the attitude come from? Okay, these people are
yes.
just fucking crazy.
So, anyways, he again hands the candy, and I say trick or treat, thank you, and he goes to James. What were his exact words? Do you remember?
He was waiting for James to say thank you, and he goes, "Oh, I guess thank you's not for everyone," and he just walked away.
And I'm
To
going,
his credit, he did not take back the candy.
but also he didn't look at the fucking pamphlet. It's like, why? Okay, what? I'm sorry. Maybe it's the autism in me. I don't know how society usually handles like somebody handing you a pamphlet of some sort. But usually I at least look to see what it is. You know what I mean? Like the curiosity there just wasn't there, you know? Like anyways, so I got pretty irked and we didn't do that again. We didn't go out like that again. I believe the next year we didn't even go out. We just bought them boxes of candy and we stayed at home.
No, we did. We just went to
Like neighbors.
no, we went out to what do you call
No,
your
the
parents.
very following year.
No, I'm pretty sure we went out to parents with your parents.
Oh, and you know what? As much as small towns often do have like a little bit more of like a conservative background, everyone was very good about
The
their special needs there.
well, I'm from an even fucking more remote, like isolated place than you are, and people are pretty
Good about special
yeah.
needs. Yeah.
Not the younger people. The younger people are
Fucking
how
idiots.
you'd
Sorry.
expect people to be when they're fucking stupid, but no, that's pretty like all things considered a pretty safe place for people with like developmental
Yeah.
disabilities.
So we go now to my hometown because it's just first of all we can trust the candy because we know most of the people, and
That
second,
I'm pretty sure that's never actually happened. I'm pretty sure that's
no,
just something.
but so did John Wayne Gacy seemed normal to people before he wasn't. Same with Dahmer. I just say like maybe it's not the majority, but it's a possibility. Anyways. So we go there now. We have a better time. That was the second occurrence of what we realized. Oh, and then it's like anytime we take them to a restaurant, people just like fucking
I
stare.
don't even look anymore at other people.
I had a cringe moment. Do we want to talk about that? I feel really bad about, but I'm the type of person where I'm an open book. I tell people exactly what I'm thinking in the time. And so I was very quick to apologize right
Fuck.
after. But because of our experiences with our son and daughters, I immediately jumped to the like everybody's a fucking issue and I don't like people and like go fuck everybody. It's literally like my initial is like I hate everyone, go fuck yourselves. And maybe that's not the best way to handle things, but it's certainly what's happened to me because of the situation. And so I'm not going to even say that like it's right. I'm just going to say that's what's happened. Um, there was one time when I was in a grocery store and I was the public perception issue. We were being, reasonably strapped for cash that week, so I was already kind of stressed. We were in the grocery store trying to budget things. And thankfully, the grocery store had, oh, pardon me, ooh, tickle in my throat. The grocery store had a thing where, like, if you spend 30 you get $10 off or something like that, which was great because in that moment we had like what $40 to our name.
Right.
So, anyways, we were like, oh my god, now we can get snacks and stuff too. So we were really happy. And we're walking around the grocery store, and I noticed this person giving like some really weird looks to James and Caitlin. Because James and Caitlin, orally stim, both vocally and by chewing on things. So Caitlin was making some squealy noises. Was making some squealy noises. And this person was giving the dirtiest fucking looks. And I'm just going, what the fuck is wrong with this person? Like, why are they giving dirty looks? Like, I'm like, I know that this has happened before, but like, it's just rubbing me the wrong way that day. Like, I'm not in the best state of mind for this situation. And I'm going, like, fuck this person. What is wrong? So finally, I just really loudly say to Charles, I'm like, I don't know what the fuck is this woman's problem. She needs to stop staring. I believe I called her ugly. Because I was like, because when people have ugly
Well, if
attitudes,
you're gonna do it,
you
maybe.
just go all out. I tell people what I think. And that's probably the autism. But, anyways, I was like, this ugly bitch is staring. What the fuck is this person's problem? And Charles doesn't register what I'm doing, doesn't say anything. Just, he just doesn't say anything. And then I get up to the cash and we're behind this person and I'm going like, what the fuck is she staring at still? Like she's still going.
I
And
didn't say
Charles
anything
turns
because
to
I
me.
thought she was just being a bitch. But once she got up to the cashier was talking to her like very patiently and a little bit like
To childlike. Yeah.
yeah.
And I hadn't
And
noticed
then
that
I
because I was
immediately was
dealing
like,
with Caitlin
"Oh,
trying to grab all the candy, right? Like, so I'm not noticing that interaction. I'm dealing with the fact that Caitlin's trying to be a klepto and steal all the candy because you know how they have candy on either side of the fucking till? Anyways, so then Charles turns to me and says, I think she's disabled. And I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, I think that lady is disabled, Jess. And I'm like, fuck. Because I start like looking at her a little bit more and I'm starting to realize things that I didn't notice before because I was just so angry at the situation. Because I was like, fuck this
no,
staring bitch.
there wasn't anything to notice. She had like a real sour look on her face,
Yeah, but
but
otherwise, she wasn't physically disabled. No. Like, there wasn't.
I wouldn't have realized if it wasn't for the cashier talking to her that way because she obviously they're in
But I'm noticing now how her sister is acting with her and stuff. Like, I'm
no,
noticing
well,
things, is what I'm
because I
saying.
heard her they were talking about her kind of like she wasn't there almost because the cashier was asking like, "Oh, what's going on?" And the sister said, "Well, she's in a bit of a mood today or something." And I was like, "Oh, it's like she's
Yeah, but
actually
I
disabled and like
wasn't
you just
noticing
fucking
these
you're
interactions
giving
at
this woman
first
shit."
until Charles said something, and then I started to notice this interaction. And then I went up to the sister and I
But she would have had
apologized.
no idea. I'm pretty sure the woman didn't even hear you anyway.
No, I wasn't being like overtly
And
loud
I
about it.
kind of didn't want you to do that just in case I was wrong because
She
that would have
might
made
not
it
have
even
been
more awkward.
disabled. No, but I am the type of person where if I've said the wrong thing or done the wrong thing, I'm going to own up to it. I'm going to admit it. I'm going to be the first person to apologize. And that's very different from regular public, right? Like Charles says, people don't normally do that. And I didn't know that
Yeah,
because that's
I
been my
would
entire
normally
life.
just be like, well, hope I never see them again. That's
Cringe.
just there's only like what how many billion people on the earth? That's one more I can't talk to.
But for me, it
Wow.
would have eaten at me had I have not said something. So I went up to the sister and I said, I am so sorry. I was so angry at your sister because I thought she was staring at my children who are disabled because they're doing different things. And she said, it's okay.
Fuck you, I'm gonna kill you.
No, she said, it's okay. I get it. I get it. Because I was like, because my initial reaction, because of the way that people have treated us in the past when it comes to our children, was fuck this person. How fucking dare she? And I'm going to make sure I'm not nice to this person. Like, those were my initial reactions because of how I've been conditioned to feel due to how it regularly goes. So I did apologize, and she was super good about it. Like she said, you know what? We get it because she also, like, obviously doesn't look disabled. So she gets the same from some people. And it's like, so she understood immediately that, like, I wasn't trying to be a bitch or anything. I just genuinely thought this person was being ignorant. And turns out that, similar to what other people think of my children, I was making assumptions. To be fair, though, this person is an adult, right? Like, this person was not a child. This person was an adult. And so I don't think of children that way because I think children don't understand things necessarily the same as adults. And so even if the child is typical, I'm not sitting there going like, fuck that child. What is that child doing? They should. Ew, I didn't mean it like that. God, not like that.
Son, I wasn't going. I 100% look at that kid. Fuck you.
Charles
You
is,
fucking asshole. What the
yeah,
fuck are you looking at?
Charles is immediately like, shit, this kid sucks.
I don't really I like my kids. I don't like other people's kids.
That's fair. But anyways, I don't normally have the perception that kids are in the wrong. Like that's not usually me. I don't usually think that. So the fact that this person was an adult and they were giving dirty looks to my kids was why I was like, okay, fuck this person. Because had they have been a child, I would have immediately just been like, they just don't understand. They're just not aware. And so public perception is hard because sometimes you can be the dirty, what's the word? You can be doing the dirty deed. You can be the bad person in the situation, like I was. But for the most part, it is ignorant adults that do things that, like, even people who don't understand much about autism probably wouldn't do, but like they feel entitled to do so because they just do. So, most of the time, we deal with shitty people. And that's unfortunate because it really does leave a sour taste in our mouths when it comes to interacting with other people. And I wonder if other people who have children on the spectrum feel that way. Additionally, we lost most of our friends when we had children.
Yeah, it was already kind of done.
Yeah, his friends were so not on his level yet. Like they are just getting married now, like the last couple years. So he was ahead of the game when it came to
Just
that.
different.
But they also have different perspectives of life and like
No, just different responsibilities and stuff, whatever.
yeah, so his friends were already kind of dwindling because of that.
And it already none of them lived here anymore either, so it's
Yeah, they moved away, but also once we had kids and other people started to have kids a little bit, it's not like they want to hang out with our kids.
well, they've all got their own fucking.
Well, it's not just that. Our kids are different. And I think it's hard for people to be like, let's hang out because they don't want to necessarily. And I found that a lot with my friends too. Like,
I'm kind of just happy for people leaving the fuck alone so I can play my Warhammer.
That's fair. Charles really does like his Warhammer, and he found a really good friend through that, so that's nice. Um, but a lot of my friends just either weren't parents yet, so they had no fucking clue of what I was going through just on like the basic level of parenting, but also the ones that were, their kids are typical, so they just didn't want to hang out, like it was a very different scene. We didn't really have a lot of friends after having kids. And that's okay. I mean, the ones that we do have are pretty great, like I would say. What do you think? The ones that understand us. And so that also leads into we don't have a community. We don't have a community. We don't have people who are surrounding us who are helping on the daily. Like some cultures do that where their like family lives with them and helps, or some people even without a different culture, they have more support from their family than
God,
we do.
to have family.
Don't say that. Anyways, he loves his family. He just means like he's not the type to want to be around people all that often. Right, honey?
Sure, that's what I meant.
Anyways, so that being said, we don't have a community around us of people helping and stuff, and like the people who would necessarily be helping have their own shit going on, right? Like it's not like we can necessarily have them stop everything that they're doing to help. So it's really one of those things where I've found that special needs parents have a harder time finding their community and when like and having time off. Like we don't have time off. Our time off is this. And even so the kids are awake upstairs, so we still have to kind of
I'm just
be
bummed.
parents. No, the other I could hear James squealing. Anyway, so it's a different kind of parenting and because people don't you know want to hang out with our kids necessarily because their kids don't get along with our kids necessarily because I mean let's be real, it's
Well,
not
they just don't know.
we're not having play dates
Nobody knows what to
say or do.
Yeah, and they don't like the majority of people are like, as little effort as possible, and they don't really give a fuck about what's going on so much. They just kind of like, no one wants to deal with anything more than they have to.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, someone, if I see someone I haven't seen in a while, and I ask, "How's it going?" I go, "You sure you
How
want to
much time
ask?
do you
You sure you
have?
want
Do
to
you
ask
really
me that
want to talk?
question? Like,
Yeah.
don't ask me that question unless you really want to fucking know,
Our situation is
because I'll
different.
fucking tell you."
Yeah, and that's just it, is like people
And
are
there's
always.
one person that I used to work with at the before I moved to the current job. He asked me that, and I said that to him. He said, "Oh no, I wouldn't have asked if I didn't want to know." All right, fuck you then. I'm gonna fucking tell you.
And then did his face slowly go like
No, he was very
concerned face?
very nice person. Though. He actually
Oh,
listened.
because I've had people where they're like, "Hey, how's it going? What's going on new in your life?" And I'm like, "Sure, I'll tell you. My son is currently digging into his thigh, and I'm worried about him getting as far as the muscle because he likes to consume himself." And they're like, "The fuck?" I'm like, "It's very Dahmer, not demure." And they just don't know what to say, right? Like it's not something you can relate to very easily.
Well, I usually don't bother telling people anything anyway, because
It's
I
just too
just say,
much for
"Yeah,
people.
fine."
It's too much
I
for
say, "Oh,
people. Just getting
because
by.
you're just
Just
fucking making
surviving.
it."
Yeah, just surviving.
Because I don't care to tell them. They don't give a shit to hear it
Well,
either. So,
another thing is really like, how do you
and
explain the situation without people like going,
and then
oh,
I
sorry.
don't. I'm the kind of person that doesn't.
Clumsy number two.
Kind of person that doesn't really. I don't do well with compliments, receiving gifts, or like I can't do that whole inner scope of interaction. So when someone says something like, "Oh, geez, I'm really sorry. That sounds really hard," I'm like, "Yeah, sure does."
Well,
Thanks.
yeah, I hate and I'm not sure how you feel about this, but I hate you're so strong and God only gives you as much as
Oh
you
no,
can
no, no.
handle.
I don't want to hear that shit. I don't want to hear that God shit, first of all.
Hmm.
But when people say, like, people would tell them, "Oh, you guys are so patient. You're so fucking like, I can't believe how you guys handle all this." Little do they know, most of the time, most of the time, like before I started to really, really try to ignore what was going on around us when we were in public, I would be like right on the fucking edge. Like if someone were to say the wrong thing to me, usually it fucking could end up real bad because I was walking around. I still kind of am. I don't really have much patience anymore for anything at all. But usually it'd be like I'm just right fucking riding the razor's edge, and if someone pushed me over, so I had to put a lot of effort into because I'm still like that. So I have to really concentrate on what's going on right in front of me and not care about
Other
people
people.
around us
Hmm.
because I'll start taking that same way other members of my family have, where I just start saying shit out loud, not really caring who hears it.
Yeah, it's hard because when I hear
Things that you
people go,
shouldn't say, I'll say them.
and I know that it comes from a place of caring, and like I'm not trying to be a dick about this, so please, if you've said this to me, like it's not that I'm mad at you or anything. Um, when people are like, "You're so strong," and you're only given as much as you can handle, and God gave you this or whatever. There's a list of the same kind of idea of how they say it. Like, I just want to be like, I'm actually struggling. I'm having a horrible time. I'm not strong. I'm on the verge of like walking into the woods and never being seen again because that's the
It's a
easier
pretty big
option.
difference between being strong and patient and really not having a choice and just
Yeah,
like,
we
well, do you
don't
want
have
to
a
die or do
choice.
you want to be this way?
Yeah,
Because that's kind of how it is.
we don't have a choice, right? Like we don't get to be like, you know what? Yeah, you're right. I'm really strong. I'm not fucking strong. In fact, I'm asking for help constantly, but people aren't getting the fucking memo. I'll be like, yeah, well, this week I haven't been able to properly brush my hair because when I get the chance to, suddenly I've got someone else doing something else. And then, like, I can't say what I'm really thinking because bottom line is it's not socially appropriate to say, hey, yeah, I would walk into the woods and never be seen again. Because then people are like, now you're suicidal. No, I'm not suicidal. I'm telling you right now that it would be easier if I just weren't here. Like, it would be. It would be so much easier. But the
Easier for
reality is,
you.
I know. The reality is, I have people that need me. I have responsibility and greater responsibilities than the average person. And if I don't do X, Y, and Z, then everybody suffers. And I'm not gonna just let that happen.
But mostly me.
So, anyways, point of the matter is, like, yes, it would be easier to be one of those people on like fucking the first 48, like, but I'm not going to do that because I love my family and I want to be there for them. But like to tell people what you're feeling about that, that's that's not socially acceptable. You can't just be like, yeah, you know what, actually, this is
I
not going well.
I have occasionally said to people when they say like, "Oh, you guys are fucking like
So strong.
so fucking like, geez, I can't, how do you do it?" Like, well, I did say once in a while, "What the fuck choice do we have?
Yeah,
We
did
kind
we
of have
plan
to."
this?
And then
No.
they would be like, "Yeah, I guess so." And but then I feel then I sound like an asshole saying that because the reaction I get is like, "Yeah, I guess." Like they thought they were being real nice,
Nice.
and I'm just
Yeah.
like, I don't want to fucking like. Okay, like you asked the question. I wasn't begging to tell you what's going on. I did warn you.
Well,
Like, do you
that's
really
another
want to
thing is
know?
like then
And then,
also if you do that, then it leads to like nobody wants to talk to you
yeah, then no
anymore.
one wants to ask me that question anymore. That's why I
Nobody
just
wants to
started
know
saying.
about your life anymore.
Yeah, I think it's maybe a bit of autism showing through. And that's when people say, "How's it going?" They're not actually asking you.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. I mean, I guess society does the like how's it going? And then you're supposed to be like, "Yeah, it's good, man. How's it going with you?"
Fucking perfect.
Just perfect, bud. But like we don't do that. We're like, here's our life story and our struggles, and please accept our deepest apologies for not being a normal fucking societal person. Like I'm literally giving you my life
Yeah.
story meeting you on the bus because now I've got to explain XYZ. Now, thank God we don't have to do the bus
No,
anymore.
sometimes no, no, no. I don't
Because
get. I think sometimes on the bus, people do actually want to know because
they're
then it
bored.
kills the time.
They're bored. Yeah. But you know what? The majority of people don't give a fuck about what we have to say. And that's something that I'm trying to understand now too. Like even in situations at work or something, somebody will say something to me and I'll be like, do I take that seriously? Is it a joke? I'm not sure. And so sometimes I won't even say anything. I'll just walk away.
That's my favorite.
I because like I know that like socially I'm supposed to respond to this situation, but in my brain I'm going, I don't know what the fuck to say right now, and I'll probably say the wrong thing, so I'm just gonna walk away.
I've found there are probably quite pretty often actually. Not so much anymore since I haven't been working at like around that same environment. But people like I will sometimes actively avoid interacting with people just because
It's easier.
I just fucking just don't have the fucking energy
Well,
anymore. Like
yeah.
I could
So,
stand here and fucking jaw to somebody, doesn't really care what I'm saying. And well, I don't really give a fuck what they're saying either. Or I could go back and sit down and think about Warhammer.
you know what though? Also, the not caring about what other people have to say, it's not that we don't necessarily, it's that what they have to say sometimes just pisses me off more. Like, and I'll be honest with you, if you're a friend of mine, I apologize because sometimes you're talking about a genuine concern you have for your life, and kudos to you for being open with me. But I'm sitting there going, why the fuck you complaining? Like,
I don't
literally.
I don't do that. I just kind of think like
Wow, must be easy if that's all you've got going on.
no, I don't think that
I do.
because everything's different. Like they may not tell you everything, and there may be other shit that whatever.
Oh, it's nice that
But
you're nice.
no, I'm not saying I'm nice. I'm just saying like I would just rather not because I've got enough going on. I don't want to do it about anything else.
Well, and I want to be a supportive friend. So if you're my friend listening to
Like I
this,
don't
I'm
even look. I
sorry.
used to follow the news and shit. Like
I don't like the
I don't give
news.
a fuck anymore. I don't care at all.
No.
Like that's not true. I do care, but I don't care to find out. If I happen to hear something, yeah, I'll be like, oh yeah, that sucks. We should do this and this instead, or
I get
blah,
so mad at you
because
when you tell me
I'm
about
such a fucking expert. But
the news.
I do not actively seek it out anymore. I used to read all kinds of stuff all the time, but it's
Well,
just
yeah.
I find everything just now is coming down to, do I want to spend energy thinking about this? Because even thinking now is like exhausting.
Yeah, but like, so getting back to what I was saying, I'm not trying to be an asshole here by saying that. Like, genuinely, I do care about my friends and I want to be nice. Like, and, and I'm learning that one of my autism traits is to be like, wow, your story is great, but mine's better in my head. You know what I mean? Because, like, the reality is our lives are so fucking, like, almost like a sitcom, but like a dark humor sitcom. You know what I mean? Like our lives are like you would not expect that in a week we've gone through all of
Guess how
this.
many times I wiped shit off the wall this week?
Lots. But you know what I mean? Like you would not expect that. So because of that, I'm going in my head like, okay, get through your story. I'm sorry your grandma died. But like my story's better.
I can't.
You know what I mean? Like and I know that sounds bad.
I can't. That's something I am
I'm
horrible
not good at
with.
I'm not good at death either because like okay, so as a
Like
healthcare
that.
worker, I have a different perception
No,
of it.
it's not that like death is like a thing that I'm bad with. I'm assuming. It's
I hope so.
it's uh it's people that have experienced it. Like someone whose like family member died and they're talking about it. I'm like, oh my God, I cannot wait to get out of this conversation.
Yeah. So as a healthcare worker, I have a different perspective on that. So I said this to one of my residents that was leaving because she didn't need the facility anymore. And she was like, how do you guys handle the fact that so and so died? And I was like, see, it's a funny perspective for me because I'm not your family, but it feels like we're close like family because I see you guys daily, almost. And so we build these relationships that are like obviously professional relationships, but at the same time, like we care about you people. And then something happens and one of you passes, and we're not supposed to mourn you guys like your family does. But oftentimes we're closer to you guys than your family. There's sometimes where my residents will share things that they would never say to their families to me. And I have to respect that I'm not your family, but I care about you like family. And so I have to mourn differently. Like, yes, I cry. Yes, I'm upset that whomever died. But also, I try to just move past it as quickly as possible because ultimately like in our facility alone, I think there's been like at least 30 people died this year. And it's like if I really focus on that and only that instead of trying to bring positivity into the residents, then it would not be okay for the others trying to just live their life for the rest of their life. And so it's a dichotomy there for me. Like so when people talk about their loved ones passing, I don't have the same feelings as I did before being a healthcare worker. I'm not saying I'm desensitized to it. I'm not. Like, I do cry every time I lose a resident, like, bottom line. And it's a really hard day. And I'll tell my husband when I come home, like, listen, we lost somebody today. I'm not doing well.
And I'll go. Oh, sorry.
I'm good at that. But like one time I remember losing a resident. Did I tell you this? I remember losing a resident. I'm laughing now because I'm sure that the general public watching me do this was like, what the fuck is wrong with you? But I was driving around afterwards because I didn't want to go home yet and like bring that home with me. But I was on the phone with Charles and I was telling him what happened. I'm just bawling my eyes out. At I want to say this was like 7 o'clock in the morning and I'm driving around our city instead of going home and I'm bawling my eyes out, but I'm driving in like slow areas so that I can pay attention less. And I know that sounds bad. But hear me But hear me out. There's less traffic, less things going on. It's 7 in the morning. Not enough people are out yet. Maybe it was 6:30 at the time because
I don't think
I'd
it's
get out
specific
at
time
like
instead of
6.
I'm sure it's fine.
Anyways, point of the matter is it's less traffic. I'm trying to do that, but the people who do see me are seeing me more obviously because it's slower traffic. And so we're actually seeing each other like through the windows of our vehicles. And I'm sobbing hysterically. And I'm talking to my husband. And I'm driving around like that. And I'm sure the perception of the people around me were like, this girl is fucking nuts. But here I am just trying to get over the fact that I lost a resident and I have to go home and I have to be there for my kids and not bring that home with me. So I do sob. I do really feel heavy about people passing, especially when I'm not there and people pass. Like, it's so weird to come into a shift, find out by a plaque on the wall that someone had passed, and then have to process that information as fast as possible and then get on with my job. Like, that is such a weird fucking feeling. It's like, oh, this person that you saw every day and even talked to every day and sometimes had like meaningful conversations with, that person's dead, but now you gotta be okay for everybody else. That's weird. So, like, being a healthcare worker, I'm not good at those conversations. I mean, at one point in time, I had a family member, her mother was making very shallow breathing, and at some points would go, like, freak her the fuck out. and, and, like, it does happen at the end of death where, like, people do that kind of exasperated breath. And so it was freaking the person out. And in my mind, I knew that the person was just waiting for their daughter to leave so that they could pass because they didn't want to do it in front of the daughter. So they were holding on as best as possible so that it wasn't like while she was in the room. So I actually took the lady outside of the room and I said, "It's okay. Like this is very natural. It does look scary. And it's okay to cry and it's okay to be upset and doesn't look necessarily right to you, and that's because it doesn't feel right to lose a person, but this is what death looks like, and there's a natural beauty of it though." And like I said, because you're watching their final moments and they know and they're comforted by the fact that they can hear you still because their last sense to leave their body is their hearing. So they can still hear you and they know you're there and they know they love you and that you love them, and that's what matters. And so I was comforting this person in the hallway and I knew that whole time that that person was passing in the room right beside us. And I didn't know if that interaction was appropriate. Like, in that moment, that person seemed very thankful for that interaction with me, but I didn't know if it was appropriate to say those things to that person in the moment because ultimately I view death differently than other people because I am a healthcare worker. And so, yeah, I'm not good at it. Like, I'm not, and I'm better at it than Charles because Charles will just be like, "Oh, sorry," and then be like, "Oh, I gotta go." Like, sorry. Like he'll do that. Whereas I will try my best to like comfort the person, but then I've got to go.
No,
Like,
I won't leave. I'll just stand there awkwardly.
hmm yeah. And Charles, when he's like in his head, I don't think he knows he does this, but he just kind of goes like this and like stares past a
What are you doing?
person. Like it's just like staring past a person and like blank expression.
So I'm thinking about work.
But but he's like in his own mind instead of there with them. And I don't know if other people notice that you're doing it, but I know because I've been with you for almost 15 years. So,
You
you
should
know,
just on my eyes weird.
just how my eyes are. But anyways, so
I
you
was
know,
just wandering and you think I'm looking behind you.
so when we do interact with people, we don't do a normal interaction because our lives are so weird. Oh my God, I fucked that up. Look at this. I got it all everywhere. Um, because our lives are very different. And I mean, like when people are thinking of like, oh, I don't know how I'm gonna deal with my kid getting married one day. That's not even a like. I like. I'm not trying to knock on wood here. I'm not trying to say it's not a possibility. I know it's not real word. It's pixel. Could you just stop? Anyways, um, I don't have the same like worries and feelings as other parents. Like other parents are worried, like, will they get into a good college? Will they get married one day? Will they have children? How will they deal with social interactions then? You know, like our worry is, will they die from an accident?
Will the teacher not notice if they leave the room and they hit
Yeah,
the fucking car
like
or something?
will they elope somewhere without being noticed and die from an accident? Um, or go missing and die from an accident. Or will we not be able to outlive them enough that like that we're like 150 and there for them in their last moments because let's be honest, they'll feed people for the rest of their lives, unlike most people, you know. And we're very aware that we will probably never be grandparents, and that is a weird feeling to have at 30. You know what I mean?
I don't. I
No.
really don't think about that.
Well, I do because there's people who aren't thinking about that at all because they're 30 something and they just assume that it'll happen one day. But like for us, it's very different.
I try very hard not to think about uh, too far in the future
Yeah, it's
because it
depressing.
really makes me sad. Like I remember one of the first things that happened to me when like after we had the concrete diagnosis and it was really settling about James. I was on the bus and the kid there was like a little kid, maybe like 2 years older than James was at the time, with his dad, and the kid was asking him what this thing was. It was like the wheel well for the bus, but it was like the big lump in the floor. And I fucking was like ugly crying behind him. I had to put my headphones in so I couldn't hear him because I was realizing that I'm never ever going to have
This
the
conversation.
kid, a kid that's like just out somewhere with me and me be able to explain to them, oh, that's what that is, and that's what
Well,
that
that was
is. And
before Charlotte at the time too.
yeah, but
But for James and Caitlin specifically, we will like we will
I
like
thought it was fucking crazy sitting behind them just cry for no reason.
so the thing is like little things can really fuck us over in our minds. Like other people aren't thinking the way that we are. You know, like we're watching and like I'm gonna say it right now. For anybody who's thinking that there's a fucking fruit fly. For anyone who's thinking that we're assholes for saying this, I don't think there's an asshole mentality here. Wow, this fruit fly really hates me. Um, but the reality is, oh my God, it's coming at me. I can't get rid of it. It's driving me up the wall. I think it's because I smell like fruit because I'm drinking lemon water. Um, the reality is that we won't have the same interactions with our kids that other people will have with theirs. And when we see things that we know probably won't happen for us, it's a sad moment. And it's okay to grieve. Let's just say that right now. It's okay to grieve and mourn what you thought life would be like. And people are like, don't think like that. You have healthy children and stuff like that. Like, don't think of it. And it's like, yeah, I have my children physically here with me, and that's great. And I'm not saying that's like a bad thing. I'm not downing on.
Children that will need assistance in some form or another for their entire lives. I have children that um, we will struggle our whole lives to set up for their future for when we die. And
If we even get there.
um, after that happens, even if we win the lottery and put money aside for them where they could live comfortably,
Will somebody
there's
fuck them
someone that's
over?
gonna, some fucking asshole gonna fucking scam them or try and take advantage of them. It's a never ending fucking. That's why I don't try to think too far in the future.
And
Because it's
so
just like you can't trust people and I can't live forever.
and so that's what we're saying when we're saying we're mourning certain things about our lives, because there are certain things that we won't get to do that as parents that we might have thought when I was first pregnant with James. Right? Like there's certain things that like even our parents thought they'd be able to do with our kids that they won't be able to. And that is a and I'm trying to be respectful in that everybody has their own processes and that they probably are mourning certain things too. But part of me is like, fuck you guys. Like, I'm mourning more because you guys had your parenting opportunity and like, this is mine. But I'm trying to
Oh
be
God,
what?
he's getting fucking weird over there.
What, the cat?
Yeah,
They're both neutered and
making
spayed.
his fucking love noises over there.
Oh my god, they're not gonna do anything. They can't.
Go just watch, see what
Well, I'm.
happens.
They're not. They're spayed and neutered. They can't do
Look,
anything. Okay, wait one sec. I need that. Is it
what?
Rathbone?
No,
Which one's this one?
Wraithbone.
Who cares how I say it? Anyways, um, that being said, we're allowed to mourn, and the people around us are allowed to mourn about the experience too, because ultimately it is different, and we're not assholes for saying that. So when people are like, be blessed, be happy with your blessings and stuff, I want to punch them in the face. Respectfully.
Case of Ligma and Sigma.
Yeah, because let's be very clear. You mourn certain situations about like your life too. Like I fucking mourn the size 6 that I was at one point. Like that's okay. I mourn the fact that I thought I'd own a house in my life. you know and I'm in crippling debt. um I mourn the relationship I thought I'd have with my family members sometimes, or the relationship I thought you'd have with your family members sometimes, like although you have a pretty good relationship with your mom.
It's because for all their faults, my family does not hold grudges.
No, your family is very quick to throw things under the bridge.
Yeah.
But that being said, there's certain things that I'm gonna mourn, and that's okay. So if I'm mourning about my kids, it's not because I'm not grateful for everything we do have. Of course I am. Like, that's just kind of stupid mentality if you think that. But like, I'm allowed to mourn. Is she calling me? What? Zombie? Stop watching bad things.
I think she's playing.
I hope it's a super simple song or something, not something
She was
scary.
watching
Walking Dead?
Monkey.
Okay, good. I was about to say, what the fuck are you about to say?
No, not The Walking Dead.
I know, I'm joking. Um, so, we're allowed to mourn, and other people are allowed to mourn their situations too. Like nobody's saying X, Y, or Z. Like, what? Okay, here's the thing. This is a very benign thing to bring up, just in case, like, because I don't want a controversy our first episode. But what if you have a child and they decide that they don't like hockey and your whole life is about hockey and all you like is hockey? I don't like hockey. To preface, I don't give a fuck about hockey. And you know what? We're from hockey families and we don't like hockey. So, anyways, that being said, what if that is all you thought that you would, get to do with your kid is like enjoy these moments of hockey and they don't give a fuck about it? Even though it seems benign to me because of all the struggles we're going through, that's still something you're allowed to mourn. You're allowed to mourn that. If that's what you wanted for your situation and it's not going to happen, you're allowed to mourn that. And fuck anybody who wants to say to you that you're not allowed. Like, that's kind of bullshit. And how dare anybody tell you that you're not allowed to mourn certain situations in your life? Of course you are. Like, there are some people who mourn, you know, what they thought they'd be in life. Like, I was going to be a professor, that was my calling. And then, you know, things happened in life that made it impossible to have that lifestyle. And so, what am I doing with the intelligence I have? Absolutely fuck all. It's unfortunate, but it's true. And you know what? So many people have said to me, "Wow, you're so smart." It's like, yes. Would you like to see the array of diplomas I have that I have done absolutely nothing with? Or, like I feel like people don't understand that you're allowed to mourn certain things in your life. Like, yeah, of course I would have liked to be the prestigious person that I thought I'd be one day. Like, I'm going to mourn that because realistically, I worked very hard to get to where I was, and then it didn't end up doing anything for me. And that's okay. And I'm sure there are other people who worked very hard on something and it didn't get them where they thought they'd be. Hell, you in your workplace sometimes, but
For my wildest dreams would I have thought that I'd be able to work from home. I thought I would be stuck doing a physical job my whole life, breaking
and
my
now
fucking
I
back.
am.
And now I kind of wish I was doing it.
T. Anyways, point of the matter is, don't let other people tell you you're not allowed to feel the way you feel about your life because you're the one living it. And they don't get to have a fucking opinion, right? Anyways, so if you were looking for a podcast where we don't know what it's about, we're just kind of talking, and we are looking for a community of people who maybe have special needs children or feel like they don't have a community. It doesn't matter if you don't have special needs children. Maybe you would just feel like you're isolated in your situation and you want to, have a community. That's cool too. Or maybe you're a healthcare worker and you think it's funny to talk about random things that happen at work because that'll probably come up sometimes. Of course, with privacy in mind, I'll share some stories with you. But or hey, maybe you're into painting or Warhammer and you just want to watch two idiots paint because we are going to eventually get, like, if we find that people want to listen to this and watch this and what have you, we will get some actual equipment where you can see what we're doing and, it doesn't seem like we're just filming from a potato. Although, to be fair, the potato did pretty well, I think. Do you think? It made my face look really, like, blemish free, which is great.
Feeling pretty cross-eyed. I haven't looked up much.
Yeah, I know. You were very bad at podcasting.
Well, you kind of framed this a different way.
Hmm?
You made it seem like we were going to be painting, but it seems like that was just.
We are. We're doing painting too. Like the look,
Yeah, you can't paint without looking at.
you can barely see what I've done, but this is a dude. He was black. Now he's not. What's yours look like? We should superimpose pictures of what we end up doing. Anyways, thank you for listening to our first ever podcast. And we are probably going to do others because
I
there's other
apologize in
things. Yeah, we are not podcasters. Like, I want to again state that what we are doing right now is just for, the sake of finding a community or maybe even just expressing something that we don't see a lot of. Is she saying mommy?
I think so.
On the internet. And so that's why we're doing this. But also, we have some funny stories sometimes. And I think it's almost like a sitcom. But like I said, dry humor, dark humor sitcom. Um, so sometimes I would like to share those stories with people. Um, we should really talk about some of the funniest things that have happened to us um, over the years because there are some really funny ones actually. Um, because our life, like I said earlier, our life is not typical. Like we not just because we don't have typical children or, life didn't pan out the way we thought it would. We literally do not have a typical life because weird shit happens to us all the time. Like it's not normal the amount of shit that we've like dealt with or been through. Um, and it's not normal the weird shit that we've been through too. Like some of it's really weird. And we'll get into that over the podcast time. Like I think it'll be a great opportunity to tell some of the funny stories that we've been through and like kind of actually, almost relive it a bit. Also, this is kind of our date night until we get some respite, so we're also gonna sometimes shoot the shit and forget that this is being filmed, so just keep that in mind when you're watching. Anyways, we hope you guys have a wonderful week. This was the first podcast of ASD3, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Okay, bye.